called to serve. This is the mission of every Coast Guardian across the Philippine archipelago and the globe.
2022 almost went in a speed of light, bringing new developments and challenges in the country's maritime sector.
Join us as we look back on our accomplishments as the first and only humanitarian armed service of the Philippines.
Prepare to pull out and enjoy the sail as we bring you
The Philippine Coast Guard's accomplishments for calendar year 2022. Let's start with Maritime Security. In 2022, the Philippine Coast Guard conducted maritime operations anchored in rules-based and peaceful approaches to protect the welfare and livelihood of Filipino fishermen.
We even deployed our Airbus helicopters for an aerial surveillance with our trusted media partners to inform the Filipino people that the West Philippine Sea remains as a safe and secure fishing ground for our citizens.
What you are seeing right now are the actual footage during the aerial surveillance in the West Philippine Sea, particularly at the Scarborough Shoal.
During this operation, we monitored approximately 40 Filipino vessels that were peacefully conducting their regular fishing activities at the shoal.
It's true, there were foreign vessels near the vicinity waters, but no radio challenge were made as we continue to uphold diplomacy.
Through the generosity of our Philippine Coast Guard auxiliary partners, we were able to distribute hundreds of family packs and COVID-19 health kits to Filipino fishermen during our maritime operations.
Kudos to our auxiliary partners for selflessly offering their time, talent, and treasure in support of our humanitarian missions.
Here are glimpses of our successful bayanihan sa karagatan that allow us to extend further assistance to our fellow Filipinos in need. These photos were taken in May 2022 when we deployed the largest Coast Guard contingent in the West Philippine Sea.
In February 2022, we conducted a test fire on the state-of-the-art weapon systems installed in our multi-role response vessels. The operation confirmed that these systems enhance target observations at sea, yield excellent fire-on-the-move engagement capability, and perform accurate aiming and firing on aerial targets, and maneuvering vessels in high sea conditions.
In May 2022, 4 Coast Guard vessels installed 5 navigational buoys carrying the Philippine flag in 4 critical islands in the West Philippine Sea. These sovereign markers are now flashing light at night to guide sailors and communicate that the islands of Lawak, Likas, Parola, and Pag-asa are special protected zones.
The barko ng Republika ng Pilipinas Teresa Magbanwa was deployed to support the resupply mission for the Philippine troops on Ayungin Shoal. Now, let's talk about maritime safety.
In 2022, we rescued more than 830 individuals from vessel collisions and fire onboard incidents.
Our brave rescuers also risked their lives to assist 5,577 individuals during various search and rescue operations at sea and on land.
The strict enforcement of the no-sail policy during typhoons and extreme weather conditions helped prevent maritime accidents.
To broaden our public service reach, we also had established Coast Guard stations and substations in far-flung coastal areas.
We also expanded to 15 Coast Guard districts, 89 stations, and more than 400 substations nationwide.
We maintain more than 500 lighthouses in different regions, which help vessels navigate safely within our waters.
In December 2022, we commissioned 4 lighthouses in Batanes, making our northernmost province visible in navigational maps worldwide.
Moving forward, let's tackle maritime law enforcement.
We assisted the Bureau of Customs to their fight against smuggling of illegal drugs, cigarettes, used clothing, and other similar goods.
We also support the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in arresting individuals involved in the illegal harvesting and collecting of giant clams in Visayas and Mindanao.
During the holiday season, we augmented the Department of Agriculture in seizing cargo trucks and warehouses containing smuggled onions and other perishable items.
These successful operations yielded millions of pesos worth of smuggled goods that failed to infiltrate our marketplace,
allowing our national government to protect the welfare of the Filipino people.
Upholding marine environmental protection remains at the heart of every Coast Guardian.
Aside from our regular coastal cleanup drives and mangrove planting activities, we also participated in the Marpolex 2022 with our Coast Guard counterparts in Indonesia and Japan.
In May 2022, our vessels traversed all the way to Makassar, Indonesia, to enhance cooperation and capability in firefighting, rescue, and oil spill recovery operations with the Directorate of Sea Transportation of Indonesia and the Japan Coast Guard.
This was made possible through planning, command and control, and the conduct of integrated operations.
Speaking of interoperability exercises, we also welcomed the United States Coast Guard in September 2022 for a joint search and rescue exercise in the vicinity waters of Bagak, Bataan.
Our personnel conducted communication exercises, maneuvering drills, small boat operations, search and rescue exercises, and medical assistance.
Another 2022 highlight was enhanced collaboration between and among the armed services of the country, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, and the Philippine Coast Guard.
The three armed services signed a historic agreement on strengthening ties and harmonizing efforts in safeguarding and securing our nation.
The Joint Peace and Security Council has effectively performed its mandates, including maintaining peace and order in the national and local elections 2022.
The vessel that you are seeing right now is the newest and one of the largest Coast Guard vessels to date, the BRP Melchora Aquino.
Measuring 97 meters, the BRP Melchora Aquino and BRP Teresa Magbanwa are modeled after the Japan Coast Guard's Kunigami-class vessels.
These vessels have maximum speed of not less than 24 knots and endurance of not less than 4,000 nautical miles.
They are capable of conducting sustained maritime patrols in the country's maritime jurisdictions.
One of the highlights of BRP Teresa Magbanwa was welcoming U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris in November 2022.
During her visit, United States Vice President Harris recognized Coast Guardians for standing up for international rules-based order.
She also thanked the Philippine Coast Guard for playing a vital role in the prosperity of the Filipino nation. Our Coast Guardians remain the most important assets of the Philippine Coast Guard.
In September 2022, we conducted the single biggest enlistment of Coast Guard trainees in PCG history, with 1,500 young Filipinos taking their oath of allegiance to our flag, constitution, and people.
One thing that makes the Philippine Coast Guard stands out is our commitment to serving our fellow Filipinos in times of natural calamities.
Our deployable response groups are always the first responders in rescuing stranded families, trapped residents, and individuals in need of special care, despite chest-deep floodwater and heavy weather conditions.
We were with the affected families who celebrated the Christmas Day at the evacuation center due to massive flooding in Basilan and Misamis Occidental.
When Typhoon Paeng significantly affected our fellow Filipinos in Visayas and Mindanao, We immediately deployed our Coast Guard assets for the swift transport of family packs and other necessities.
Aside from evacuation and rescue missions, our personnel also assisted in searching for and retrieving casualties of massive flooding in Maguindanao.
Residents in Metro Manila and several provinces in Luzon also experienced the same challenges, needing the selfless service of every Coast Guardian across the country.
We are the Philippine Coast Guard, committed to go beyond towards nation building.